Welcome back to America in Black. I'm CBS Morning's featured host, Vladimir Duthiers. In the world of high finance, where very few people of color thrive, John Rogers and Eddie Brown have succeeded in ways most Wall Street investors can only dream of. Over 40 years ago, they founded the two oldest Black-owned investment firms in American history. Their firms, Ariel Investments and Brown Capital, invest money for people and institutions and have tens of billions of dollars under management. But for these two trailblazers, their legacy isn't the wealth they've created for their clients and themselves, but rather their efforts to inspire and lead others in their community to do the same. It's October at the famous National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. A sold-out crowd has turned out to honor two of the most successful Wall Street investors in history. 83-year-old Eddie Brown and 66-year-old John Rogers. Brown is the founder and executive chairman of Brown Capital, which has over $10 billion in assets and is the second oldest Black-owned investment firm in America.
Hi.
Rogers is the founder and co-CEO of Ariel Investments, the first Black-owned investment firm in the country with $15 billion in assets. Two of the oldest Black financial investment firms in America, created just months apart in 1983. We sat down with these two men to discuss their awe-inspiring journey from humble beginnings.
It's a work in progress.
And the ways they are trying to inspire a new generation to build wealth in the Black community. Where did you grow up?
A little town near Orlando, Apopka, Florida.
Born in 1940 to a 13-year-old unwed mother, Eddie Brown grew up on the fields in the Jim Crow South.
It was during the time of segregation, and the railroad tracks separated, quote, the Black section from the white section. We had an outhouse. That's why when I go to events, I try to avoid porta potties.
Brings back memories.
Brings back these memories. Had no running water. We had no electricity.
At the age of 2, his mother left him to be raised by his grandmother.
So my grandmother, to her credit, she would take me over to what was known as the big city, Orlando, on a Saturday. She would show me men sitting behind a desk. So she would say, if you stay in school, study hard, go to college, you one day can sit behind a desk with a white shirt and tie.
And that appealed to you?
Oh, that was a vision. There's no question that I was going to stay in school, study hard, go to college, and one day be able to sit behind that desk as opposed to in the hot sun out in the fields.
His first step, going to college at the age of 16 after he was accepted into Howard University.
I loved electronics and putting together electronic kits and stuff. I said, okay, I'm going to major in electrical engineering. It turned out to be good decisions.
Yeah. A good decision indeed. He spent years as an engineer at IBM, but it was while he was getting his MBA that his interest in finance was sparked. When did you first start to consider that you wanted to pursue a career in finance?
For many years, read about companies and managements. But then when I began to look at, gee whiz, Wall Street, man, people make a lot of money on Wall Street, that I could really do this.
In 1973, Brown moved to Baltimore with his family and became a portfolio manager for the financial investment firm T. Rowe Price.
The firm was founded in 1937. And until I came, they'd never had an African-American professional.
There were very few Black people on Wall Street in
Right.
general.
That's right.
Deter you at all?
No.
Not at all.
Never even thought about it.
You didn't even think about it. Yeah,
No.
you didn't think about
I
it.
say money is green.
After a decade at T. Rowe Price, in 1983, Brown started his own financial firm, Brown Capital, and even made appearances on one of the most popular investing shows.
Our panelists are Eddie Brown,
Wall Street Week with Louis Rukeyser.
You watched Eddie on Wall Street Week?
I loved watching Eddie on Wall Street Week when he would show up. Eddie was such a pioneer there.
A pioneer in his own right, John Rogers was born in 1958 and raised in Hyde Park, Chicago. the son of Jules LaFontaine, a prominent lawyer in the Nixon administration, and John Rogers Sr., a Tuskegee Airman and attorney.
Was there ever a thought in your mind that you might pursue law?
I never really thought about pursuing law in any kind of serious way. I saw how hard it was being an African-American lawyer at the time when they were building their careers.
Despite his privileged upbringing, family hardship and trauma has shaped his experience.
Your family has been very close to the center of really seismic events in American history, including what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
So my great-grandfather, J.B. Stratford, owned the Stratford Hotel in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that was destroyed during the Tulsa Race Massacre. He was one of the wealthiest Black Americans in the country, not only in Tulsa. I just can't imagine as an entrepreneur how heartbreaking it must have been to be a leader in the community, have created all this wealth, and see it destroyed overnight.
For Rogers, the seeds for creating lasting wealth were planted early.
My father, he decided that every birthday and every Christmas after I was 12 years old, I would get stocks instead of toys. At first, that wasn't fun.
But what wasn't fun soon became an obsession.
I was a vendor at Wrigley Field and White Sox Park, and so I would take my earnings and add them to the stock portfolios my dad was already building for me.
He attended Princeton University, where he was captain of the basketball team. And 3 years after graduating with a degree in economics, at 24 years old, he raised $10,000 and in 1983 started Ariel Investments.
You come out of college and you say to yourself, I'm going to become one of the youngest CEOs in the investment world.
Here in Chicago, we were known as a mecca for African-American entrepreneurs. And George Johnson, who had created Afro Sheen, became the first African-American company listed on a major stock exchange. He had started his business at a young age. Having those pioneers here was a big reason I had confidence.
As their companies grew, they soon were a part of an elite group of Wall Street investors. But each man, Rogers in Chicago and Brown in Baltimore, sought ways to give back. In Baltimore, Maryland, for over 20 years, Eddie and his wife Sylvia have donated millions to the Living Classroom Schools Turning the Corner Achievement Program, finding the most at-risk middle school students in the Baltimore area and helping them to achieve.
Awesome, thank you guys.
It's one of the greatest delights in our lives to see children that come here at least 2 grades behind. Within the first year, they get up to grade level.
Over 1,000 students who are on the verge of failing have gone through the program, continuing on to high school and graduating at a high rate.
We are so proud of all of you, and we know your journey to make all of you successful.
Why was that important for you to give young, underprivileged children a head start?
I could relate to what it's like to basically have no good support, and if it hadn't been for certain things, I wouldn't be where I am today. Congratulations. Great.
In Chicago, at the Ariel Community Academy, John Rogers feels right at home.
Can you sign this?
Hey, what's your name?
Ashton.
He also focused his impact on education, helping create this public school more than 25 years ago that teaches students financial literacy.
Warren Buffett always says earlier, invest in your circle of competence.
You've taken your time to establish this school here in Chicago.
I had the idea after a couple of years that we should create a financial literacy program and give the kids real money to invest in real stocks. You got to jump in and chase the bandwagon.
And by endowing a student investment portfolio of over $300,000, the students learn with real money.
Game out for me what you hope these young students will get over time by what you're doing in this school.
We give every first grade class a $20,000 gift, and after 8th grade, it was worth over $50,000. The kids would get to share in the profits when they graduated. So they would see how long-term investing could be successful and how it could benefit them over time. Hi. Hi.
Do you feel the ghost of your ancestors when you are walking the halls where so many children are inspired by you and your story?
Makes me feel that my trying to fight for economic justice and to try to find and help financial literacy for our Black community, I think it's tied to the legacy of my family. It's in my DNA.
What do you think your legacy will be?
You know, I remember our older daughter said something when I used to go off on business trips. Stay on the path and make footprints.
Stay on the path and make footprints for others to follow.
For other follows.